In today's lesson, we are going to learn about fractions in percents. We are going to learn how to take a percent and turn it into a fraction, how to take a fraction and turn it into a percent, and finally we will learn how to find a percentage of a number. So let's start off with taking a percent and turning it into a fraction. Now this is actually something that's really easy to do. If we think of something like a test score, let's say you got a 37%, you know that's not a good grade because it's 37% out of a possible 100%. If you got a 100%, that means you got everything right. So if I want to turn 37% into a fraction, I'm going to think about that test score. Remember, the total possible best score you could get was a 100%. That goes on the bottom. We got a 37. So it's the same as saying this fraction. 37 over 100, 37 hundredths. Let's come down and look at 42% now. Once again, it's 42% out of a possible 100%. 100 becomes my denominator. This number 42 becomes my numerator. 42 hundredths. Finally, we come over to 50%. Denominator is still 100. This time we got 50, but if I look at this, 50 over 100, we know it can be simplified down to 1/2. So remember, whenever we want to find a fraction out of a percentage, we take it out of 100. 100 becomes our denominator, our percentage becomes our numerator, and whenever we can simplify, we need to simplify. Now, next step, we're going to look at doing the opposite. Before we were given a percent, we wanted to turn it into a fraction. Now we have fractions and we want to turn them into a percent. So let's look at our first fraction. We have 4/5, 4 over 5. Now to turn this into a percent, what I need to do is make this denominator 100. So I've got to ask myself, what number can I multiply 5 by to get to 100? Now there's two ways to do this. I can use mental math to find out 5 times what equals 100. Or I could take 100 divided by 5 and that will give me my answer. But since we're dealing with 5, most of us will probably be able to use mental math, and we're going to know that if I multiply it by the number 20, it's going to give me 100. So I'm going to start doing that. 5 times 20 equals 100. Now, like in previous lessons, whatever we do to the bottom, we also have to do the top. So if I multiplied 5 by 20, I also want to multiply 4 by 20. So that'll be my next step. We know that equals 80. So now I have another fraction. It's now 4/5 became 80 over 100. But if we think back to our last step, we know that 80 over 100 is just like getting an 80%. So now let's go down to 3/4 and do the same thing. 3/4, my denominator needs to become 100. So 4 times something equals 100. I could do a division problem where I set up 100 and divide by 4, or I can use mental math. Well, 4, I need to get to 100, kind of thinking of quarters. 4 quarters is $1. So maybe 4 times 25. 4 times 25 will equal 100. And remember, this is going to remain a fraction, so there's my fraction bar. Whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So now it's going to be 3 times 25. 3 times 25 is 75. So now I have my second fraction, which is larger. My denominator is 100, which is what I wanted. And now this is the easy part. 75 out of 100 is the same as saying 75%. So one more time. If I'm given a fraction and I want to find a percent, I need to find out what number do I multiply the denominator by to get to 100. Whatever number that is, I'm going to take it and also multiply the numerator by it. I'll end up with a fraction that's over 100, and this way I can find my percent. Now that we've learned how to take a fraction and turn it into a percent, how to take a percent and turn it into a fraction, let's find a percent of a number. So with this problem, we need to find 60% of 75. So I need to find 60% of 75. So now my first step is, since they're giving me a percentage, I want to write that out. 60 over 100. So I've taken this percentage and I've written it down as a fraction, 60 over 100. The next step for us will be to simplify this if we can. Can I simplify 60 over 100? I can. I'm thinking that 20 will go into both of them. 20 will go into 60 3 times, and it will go into 100 5 times. So our percentage is written down as a fraction. Our fraction was simplified. Now this is where the 75 is going to come in, because I'm going to multiply this new simplified fraction by 75. 75 can become a fraction by putting a 1 underneath it. A little bit of work ahead of us now. 5 times 1 remains 5. Now what I need to figure out is, what is 3 times 75? 3 times 75, I get 225. Now for the final installment, what I need to do is figure out what is 225 divided by 5, because I don't want to leave my answer as a fraction. So it's going to be 225 divided by 5. A little bit of division to do, but if I work this out, I will know that 5 goes into 225 45 times, which means our answer is 45. And now we can go back and look at our original question, because they were asking, find 60% of 75. So 60% of 75 is 45.